For more on this situation, I want to bring on Diante Johnson, the president of the Black Conservative Foundation and a member of the Black Voices for Trump Advisory Board. So Diante, I know that this latest situation in Chicago hit relatively close to home for you. This went beyond just something that you read about in a headline. Can you break that down for me and our viewers?
Absolutely. This has definitely hit close to home. I'm from Chicago, and this actually happened pretty much down the street from my grandfather's house where he currently lives. And, every time I see these incidents, I think about, let me do a family roll call. Let me see what's happening because these issues are happening every single day. And it's just innocent people. Just this weekend, we saw a pregnant woman who was out selling candy was shot. And so no one, children and elderly and women aren't even exempt from this.
And when we talk about the city of Chicago, the idea of violent crime, that's been going on for years. It's not just since the latest unrest stemming from the George Floyd protest. This is an issue that the city has been unable to address now for the better part of years, if not decades. And in some cities across the country, for example, in New York, there was a sign of promise. Violent crime was going down. Things did seem to be turning the corner, but now we hit this situation where that's no longer the case. And a lot of people are putting that on the idea of police morale. Police don't want to go out and do their jobs necessarily because they're not being appreciated by their work. They're not being supported by the leaders in that city. Is that something similar that's happening in the city of Chicago right now?
Absolutely. There are advocates out there in Chicago that are working and, trying to stop the violence. But then, I, we can't place the blame on the police officers. And I believe you and I have talked about this before. We can't place the blame on the police officers. We have to place the blame on the mayor of Chicago. We have to place the blame on the state's attorney, Kim Foxx, because, the police, when the police are called, the shootings have already happened. We need to have some tough sentencing when it comes to these individuals who are terrorizing our cities with gun violence. It's a problem, and it's been going on far too long, and enough is enough.
You bring up an interesting point, and it's the idea that police are often playing from behind on these issues. I mean, so often they are responding to violent crime. They're responding to a tragic situation, and by that point, it's oftentimes too late for them to necessarily act or do anything to prevent that from happening. And that is what these federal troops are designed to do: prevent the destruction of federal property, to prevent the commission of federal crimes in the city of Chicago. So do you think that this is a good move for the White House to be pursuing at this moment?
This is a great move. This is showing that the president is not, he's not worried about what's popular. He's worried about making sure that we're saving American lives. The president campaigned on America's first, and Chicago's a part of America, and he wants to make sure that Chicagoans all over the city are protected. Whether the mayor agrees or not, she's just the mayor. The president, his focus is to make sure that America is in good hands.
And do you think that this is a practice that should not just be limited to something such as Portland or now Chicago, as people are saying that those troops are going to that city as well? Say, for example, that this continues to happen in a place like Seattle, where we already have seen violence take place ever since the protests first kind of unraveled. Do you think that that should be something that is more of a regional type of situational type of approach? So, for example, if violence were to break out in Seattle, then pursue troops there as well?
Well, I believe that if the police force and the city government cannot handle it, and the governor won't step in, the state can't handle it, it's just about right that the federal government takes place and intervene to make sure that America is taken care of and one of our states and one of our cities are all safe. We want to make sure that all Americans are safe. And the way that we do that is by making sure that the federal government is taking place in there.
And Diante, when it comes to this issue too, for example, the actions that we're talking about right now, that is something that is decided by the president. And for example, over the past couple of weeks too, I mean, he's talked about sending out the National Guard, using the military to do exactly this. But Republican leadership, I hear this from a lot of our viewers very frequently, they are absent during this time. I mean, when we do hear about it, it's someone like Senator Mike Braun who is talking about doing away with qualified immunity. That's not exactly what a lot of conservatives are talking about during this time. Would you like to see a stronger approach taken by other members of the Republican leadership?
I would love for all Republican members of leadership to join Senator Tim Scott, join the president in their focus on law enforcement and their focus on making sure that our communities are safe. We had the same thing. Governor the former governor, Bruce Rauner, he was silent as well. And so I'm not going to place it all on Governor Pritzker for being silent, because Governor Bruce Rauner was silent as well. And, it was a problem. And so we have to get to the root of this. This has gone on far too long. And we have to ensure Chicagoans and individuals all over this country that they will be able to walk down the street and be safe.
And I do want to actually talk about Governor Pritzker for a second, too, because, of course, he is the state executive in the state of Illinois. But Chicago, the state of Illinois, too, that's a place that is known for political corruption. I mean, the past couple governors, in fact, themselves have had their own legal troubles. We could go by Blagojevich. We could go down the list, if you will. But right now, too, there's also Mike Madigan. He's an individual, too, who is finding himself in some trouble over there as well. He's been a staple of the Democratic Party in the state of Illinois for years, if not decades now. Is that an issue that needs to be addressed in that state, in that city, in order for any progress to be done? Because you and I are talking that the issue of violence in that city has been going on for decades.
Yeah, and it does take leadership. Mike Madigan has been Speaker of the House for 37 years. Way too long for anyone to be in elected office, let alone to be in leadership of elected office. And he has not done anything. He's just as much to blame as Lori Lightfoot, because Lori Lightfoot has just gotten in. He's just as much to blame as Pritzker, because Pritzker just got in. And so when does the Speaker of the House actually take leadership on what's happening in Chicago? The only concern happens when it's time for votes.
Yeah, and I will give Pritzker and Lightfoot a little bit of a pass. They've only been there for a couple months at this point, but I'd still like to see them take action. But I think when it comes to those people that we're talking about, the Madigans, for example, that is something where a lot of this blame goes, because the unions are essentially blocking any progress from ever being done on this front as well. I think that's a very good point. But Diante Johnson, I appreciate you coming on tonight, breaking down the idea of police and protests and reforms, and especially what's happening in the city of Chicago. Thank you.